Before Cetus became a monstrous shape remembered among the stars, it was the living punishment sent from the sea. Its story begins in anger, in divine wrath, in the moment when human pride called forth something vast, hungry, and merciless from the deep. The Greeks remembered Cetus not simply as a beast, but as a force, a creature shaped by punishment and fear, a terror that turned coastlines into places of prayer and trembling. And when it rose against the kingdom of Cepheus, innocence itself was chained beside the sea to await it. Cetus is not remembered like an ordinary animal. It is not merely a large fish, not merely a serpent, not merely a dragon of the waves. In Greek myth, Cetus belongs to a category of terror older than human confidence. It is a sea monster, a being imagined where divine anger, chaotic water, and mortal helplessness meet. The Greeks cared less about exact anatomy than about magnitude, dread, overwhelming threat. Cetus is best understood as the embodied fear of the sea when the sea no longer gives life, but takes it away. It was punishment given form. The cause of Cetus was not hunger alone. It was insult. Cassiopeia's boast wounded the dignity of the Nereids and offended the order of the sea. Whether she claimed that she herself was more beautiful than the daughters of the deep, or that Andromeda surpassed them, the meaning was the same. A mortal house had raised itself above divine beauty. Poseidon heard, and Poseidon answered with power. Storms came first, but storms were not enough. A lesson intended for a kingdom had to be made visible. Thus Cetus entered the story, not as a random beast, as a messenger of wrath. Poseidon's power in Greek myth is never small. He governs the sea, but also disturbance itself. He shakes the earth. He raises the wave. He cracks stability. When he chose to punish the house of Cepheus, he spoke through water, and then through monster. Cetus became the final expression of that will. The monster is not independent of the god. It is part of the divine sentence. To face Cetus is to face the visible edge of Poseidon's anger. To fear Cetus is to fear the sea made hostile. When Cetus came against the kingdom, fear spread faster than any message. The coasts were no longer safe. Ships were broken. The shoreline became a place of trembling. Families fled inland. The people looked toward the sea and saw not a road of trade, not a source of food, but a living threat. This is how monsters work in myth. They transform the meaning of the world around them. A harbor becomes a wound. A wave becomes a warning. And still the monster remained. No one could face Cetus as one would face a mortal enemy. It was too large, too terrible, too clearly bound to divine purpose. So the kingdom turned toward prophecy. An oracle was sought. The answer did not speak of weapons. It named a price. To calm Poseidon's wrath, Andromeda must be offered to the sea monster. Thus Cetus became more than a destructive presence. It became the point toward which innocence was driven. The sacrifice had a face waiting in the deep. Andromeda was innocent. She had not boasted. She had not insulted the Nereids. She had not called Poseidon's anger down upon the kingdom. Yet she was chosen as the offering. In this way, Cetus becomes more than a physical monster. It becomes the destination of injustice. The place where the guilt of others is meant to end. If Cetus devoured the guilty alone, the story would be simpler. But Greek myth is rarely simple. The innocent are often drawn into the consequences of the powerful. They chained Andromeda to the rock by the sea. There she waited. The kingdom watched from afar. And somewhere beneath the waters, Cetus moved toward its appointed prey. This is the scene that fixes the monster forever in memory. A helpless maiden. A devouring force. A world watching. Cetus becomes dreadful because it is not simply abstract terror. It is imminent terror. Approaching terror. The monster is defined not only by what it is, but by whom it threatens. Many monsters in Greek myth stand for more than appetite. The Minotaur stands for hidden violence. Medusa stands for beauty turned fatal. Cetus stands for fear from beyond human control. The sea cannot be commanded by kings. It cannot be persuaded by innocence. It cannot be reasoned with when divine anger moves through it. So Cetus becomes the shape of helplessness. A terror rising from outside the walls of civilization. A reminder that not all dangers are born from human enemies. Into this scene of terror came Perseus. He was returning from the slaying of Medusa. Already he carried within the cabesus a horror of another kind. One monster had already fallen to him. Now another waited by the sea. When Perseus saw Andromeda chained to the rock, Cetus became the next trial of the hero. This is how myths join themselves together. The labor of one figure enters the suffering of another. And the scale of the monster reveals the scale of the courage required. Before the battle begins, there is waiting. The sea changes. The air sharpens. The waters begin to speak through motion. The unseen monster can fill the imagination without limit. Its size grows in the mind. Its hunger becomes certain. Its arrival feels inevitable. Terror is not born only from sight. It is born from anticipation. Andromeda waited. The kingdom waited. Perseus prepared. And beneath them all, the monster moved upward through the dark. At last, Cetus rose. The sea burst around it. Its body broke the water like a moving wall. Its jaws opened. For Andromeda, this was death made visible. For the kingdom, it was the fulfillment of the oracle's threat. For Perseus, it was the enemy that now stood between innocence and survival. The myth does not require a single fixed anatomy. It requires force, mass, dread, And Cetus provides all of this. Perseus attacked. Some traditions say he struck from the air with sword in hand. Others say he revealed the head of Medusa. Whatever version is told, the essential truth remains. Cetus met resistance. The monster that had terrified a kingdom was finally opposed by a hero. The battle joined two worlds, sea and sky, punishment and rescue, monster and champion. Andromeda waited. The outcome would decide a life and a kingdom. At last, Cetus fell. Whether by blade or by the petrifying gaze of Medusa, the result was the same. The sea monster was defeated. The living punishment was ended. The coast breathed again. The sentence laid upon Andromeda was broken. Yet notice what the myth preserves. Cetus is not defeated as a trivial enemy. Its fall matters because its power had been so great. A vast threat deserves remembrance. And so the monster itself does not vanish entirely. After a monster falls, the world around it changes. The shore that had become an altar of fear returns to being a shore. The sea, though never innocent, grows calmer. Andromeda lives. The kingdom survives. This aftermath reveals what Cetus had taken. Not only safety, ordinary life itself. A monster of this scale alters the imagination of a people. Its defeat restores the possibility of peace. Yet memory does not vanish. The name Cetus remains tied forever to the terror that made rescue meaningful. Why did the Greeks remember Cetus so strongly? Because great monsters serve the memory of a culture. They name what cannot be easily controlled. The sea, chaos, punishment, the vulnerability of cities before powers larger than themselves. Cetus is important not because it wins. It is important because it defines the scale of the danger. Without Cetus, Andromeda's innocence would seem less imperiled. Without Cetus, Poseidon's wrath would be harder to see. The monster gives shape to the stakes. In time, Cetus too was placed among the stars. This may seem strange. Why should a monster be given a place in the heavens? But Greek myth does not reserve the sky only for heroes and innocents. It also remembers threats, enemies, punishments. The heavens preserve the whole structure of the tale. Perseus, Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Cepheus, and also Cetus. The night remembers danger as well as salvation. Not every immortality in myth is glorious. Some immortality is caution. Some is warning. Some is the refusal of memory to let fear dissolve into nothing. Cetus receives this different kind of immortality. It is not loved. It is not admired as a noble figure. But it is remembered. Even what is overcome leaves a trace. Even terror, once defeated, continues as a sign. The monster's body perishes. Its meaning does not. That meaning travels upward into starlight. Cetus cannot be fully understood alone. It belongs to a triad within the myth: the monster, the maiden, the hero. Fear, innocence, courage. These three create the emotional architecture of the tale. With Cetus in place, Andromeda's danger becomes real. With Andromeda in place, Cetus becomes cruel rather than merely impressive. With Perseus in place, the confrontation becomes rescue rather than destruction. The monster defines what must be endured and overcome. If we ask what Cetus means beyond the surface of the myth, several answers appear. It means punishment. It means the terror that follows pride. It means the sea when it becomes hostile to human life. It means the scale of danger required to test heroic courage. And it means the reality that innocence may stand nearest to consequences it did not create. All these meanings live within the monster. Cetus is not merely slain. It is interpreted, remembered, read as part of a moral world. When we look into the night and find Cetus among the constellations, we are looking at more than a monster. We are looking at the memory of a threat so great that it had to be written into the heavens. We are looking at the fear that once stood before Andromeda. We are looking at the danger Perseus overcame. Cetus remains there as a reminder that darkness too has its place in myth. The stars do not only celebrate beauty and victory. They also preserve danger and judgment. Cetus endures because Greek mythology understood something essential. We remember what saves us, but we also remember what nearly destroys us. The sea monster is part of the story because terror is part of the truth. A kingdom trembled because of it. An innocent girl was chained because of it. A hero rose because of it. And a constellation shines because of it. So when Cetus rises in the heavens, the ancient warning rises with it. Pride can awaken ruin. Fear can take form. And even monsters, once defeated, may be remembered forever.